Yeah, it's Froggy here. What I've got for you today is a comparison of some parts that I ordered. We had a good discussion going on one of my forums, and the discussion was basically about the difference between GM, General Motors parts, and AC Delco parts, and whether they were the same thing or not the same thing. I think the conclusion more or less was that AC Delco is an aftermarket part to a GM specification. What these are front brake lines, the soft lines that go to the caliper from the termination of the hard brake line tubing to the caliper, the transition. And I'm going to give you a little close-up on each one of them. And then I'm also going to give you a close-up of the original equipment one that's still sitting on my car that's about 10 years old. So, let's start here. This one is clearly labeled Made in China, and the hose part actually has the name of what I assume is a Chinese company making the hose to a DOT, Department of Transportation specification, I guess, and there's an SAE, Society of Automotive Engineers specification also. However, I don't like that. If that's a date, 10/09, and right now it's 2015, that would make that a 6-year-old hose, wouldn't it? Let's stick with the hoses then and go on to the one. This is also AC Delco, and I thought one of the parts I was going to get was going to be a GM OEM, but they probably stopped making these particular hose lines for this particular model a while ago. So anyway, let's look at the hose. This hose has ribs on it. The other one was smooth. I'm not sure whether that makes much difference or not. This is made by, looks like it's made by a company called Harco, and let me show you, there's some more printing on the other side, I think. Yeah. Let me flip this around. It has clearly have a date of 5/15/13, which I guess is not too bad for parts that are warehoused and sold off over many years. It says it's a 3mm. I'm thinking that's the internal diameter. This one said 1/8. So if I remember, I'll do some math for you and see if those are the same sizes or not. They should be. So this one looks like it's a newer hose, and let's go to the car and look at the original one. I'll give you the best I can on this. The hose is, obviously covered with something. I don't think I'd be able to read any names on it, but I know this is an original hose. Now let's go. They all feel stiff. None of them feel soft. The reason I'm replacing these, along with some other brake parts, is that they're 10 years old. So I just think as a precaution I'm going to replace them. Not that I'm necessarily having any problem with them. Let's look at the hard ends. That is where the hard line terminates, and I want to notice there's one crimp there, a crimp between the fitting and the hose, and on the other end too. I'm going to try and turn my camera so you can see this. There. Also whoops, one crimp there. And then this is what's called a Banjo connection. I'll show you when I get back over there. That bolt goes through there and the fluid flows into the caliper. So let's remember those two crimp connections and go back to the new stuff. The one that we're saying is American made has a single crimp on both ends. The Chinese one has a double crimp on both ends. Now, is a double crimp better than a single crimp? I'm not sure. If I inspect them closely, they both look like good crimps. I don't think that one was done by a hand tool or anything. This one looks a little bit kind of maybe bigger or thicker or wider a little bit, but this one has got two on both ends. The hardware part, pretty much equivalent. I think that this metal, this is a stamped piece. I think it's a little bit nicer than this one. This one has it has kind of a funny mark here from the stamping, but I'm going to call that a draw on those ends. On the other ends, this is what I was calling the Banjo end. This one has some deeper grooves, and that would be to make it seal properly, prevent leakage. Grooves on both sides. And the American one doesn't really have any grooves. They both have a little bit of an indent there. So whether one is better than the other, I don't know. This one looks like it was put in a vise. These look like vise marks. Maybe it was held while this crimp was made. And this one doesn't really have any vise marks. And I'm not going to be able to show you this part that's on the car because there's a bolt through it and it's mounted up to the car. What else? Well, the only other thing I have for you guys and gals, this one was, they were both bought through Amazon. The Chinese one came from a California company, and it was free shipping, and it was 21 bucks. That's for a pair of them. This one took a little longer to get here. It was Amazon fulfillment center in Kentucky. It also had another company's name on there, and that was free shipping. That was $32.50, and that's the American one. So what are we left with? That one was a little here's something interesting that I wanted to show you. This one said GM original equipment in the description. It said both things. It said AC Delco and it said GM original equipment. So figure that out. It's got two numbers on it, AC Delco and GM original equipment numbers on it. This one said AC Delco professional hose assembly. Now, if you dig a little deeper, you see a little bit of a description here of the different parts and who makes them and how they come. GM original equipment, and I'll put that so you can pause it and read it if you want to. AC Delco professional. I don't know if that's what this is. Yeah, that's what this is. AC Delco professional, made in China. AC Delco Advantage. That's probably a lower price brand. Attractive price, it says there. And then there's specialty. That would be maybe some AC Delco, or maybe some high performance parts or something. Not necessarily from AC Delco. Or maybe it is from AC Delco. I don't know. But anyway, they both had that kind of a their description. And so, which one should I keep? I think I'm going to go with the newer hose. Even though it's got one crimp instead of two. The original one on the car had one crimp, so, and it's lasted over 10 years. This one, not because it's Chinese, but because I think that date bothers me. 10 of 09. So, let me wrap it up. That's I put this together for you guys and gals, and I hope you learned something from it. And if you like it, give me a thumbs up or a like. If you want more from Froggy, subscribe to my channel. If you really like Froggy's channel, go to the upper right hand corner and you can support the channel. Go to the eye in a circle there and follow the directions. Okay? I'll see you later, guys and gals. Froggy out. Bye-bye.